Perfect. All right. Facebook's going crazy. All right, now we're live on Facebook. Let's go. Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Third Podcast, where we cover this, that, and the third. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about, are we distracted? What's happening in our community? There's a lot that's been going on. We've had another death of another rapper. We had the movie, uh, the She Queens. What is it called? What's the movie called that you went to go see,
I,
Aaron?
I, I ain't see it yet. I don't even know what it's
We got
called.
that going on. What else is happening in the news? We are all over the place when it comes to entertainment. Aries Spears, Tiffany Haddish. The Academy Awards were last night. Black women dominated. Black women are taking over the world, honey. What are we gonna do? Hey, are we distracted? That is the question. We're gonna dive in tonight, share some perspectives. We're gonna have a different flow tonight as well. And the flow is gonna have visuals, so it won't just be us as talking heads. We're also gonna have some things to please your eyes as well. So with that, let me check in with my co-host. Let's start off with Kai. How are you doing today, Kai?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here and looking forward to diving into our conversation tonight.
Perfect. And our man who never is in a home location, always on the road. I think he might be a trucker, something like that. What's going on, Aaron?
Nah, I'm good. I'm close to Kai. I'm in the NC. I'm in the Carolinas taking
Oh,
some
okay.
classes. Yeah, I'm taking some classes for mortgage banking, trying to increase my knowledge, trying to become more of a better professional so I can serve my community. But overall, everybody's healthy, everybody's well. No complaints.
Got it. Got it. So are we gonna start to see you in Versace robes and Rolexes with
You you
and
you throwing
expensive
you
tennis
throwing
shoes?
you
No,
like
I'm
a
just
rap.
saying
You
you're
throw
headed in that direction.
throw subliminal shots, man.
You're
You
headed
throw
in that
subliminal.
direction. I'm just saying,
Nah,
man. I'm just saying you're headed in that direction. I can see it already.
not at all. I'm
Matter of
cool,
fact,
man.
let me take this Apple Watch off and let me put the Rollies. That's my favorite, man. I was like, this man be stunned, man. But
Oh
no, I
yeah,
do appreciate. I'm
Tom.
just messing around. No, I like Anton. I like
Yeah,
actually
shout
really.
out to man.
I've grown to like him. It took a long time for me to like get on his wave. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just like his his confidence is like borderline arrogant, and some people
Very
would say he's just super arrogant. But it took a long
right.
time for me to just like catch up. But I get what he's trying to do. I get it.
Yep, he's a good dude, man. He's a good dude.
Yeah, yeah. So, but that's it, right? The celebrity. I mean, we have celebrity statuses on several different levels. We have celebrity statuses in community where we have local people who are celebrities. They have a name, they have clout, they have attention put on them. We have folks who are on the YouTube level that are celebrities as well. I mean, just over the last year, how many black YouTube creators have become these notable figures and these talking heads and these leaders within these thought leaders, honestly. We have folks that look like us that are leaders in industries that we don't even know because we don't pay attention to those industries.
Right.
But the level of distraction is what we want to focus on because it's not necessarily a bad thing to be a celebrity or to have notoriety. But when it doesn't benefit the community and it's about circular conversations and we're arguing and infighting, it's not that effective. But why do we do that? So we want to kind of figure that out and talk through several different things and why these things entice us.
Hmm.
So Kai, I'm gonna hand it over to you and let you go ahead and guide us through today. Is it too late for the Black community?
Okay, thanks, Brandon. So, yeah, we're going to dive into kind of the role of Black celebrity. Has it benefited our community? Is it helping to push the culture forward? Or, as we said in the intro, is this just a distraction? And how do we view celebrity in our community, in our family, and in our culture? So, why is this conversation important? I want to show this next slide, kind of why this is an important conversation. Not just what you see on your screen, but we're going to dive deeper and then go into the different topics that we're going to cover tonight. So I found this interesting. Definitely want to get perspective with Brandon and Aaron on this. So this is an article that came out in March of 2015, a Blavy article, and it was 5 reasons why Jay-Z and President Obama are basically brothers. And I just found this interesting because I didn't really see this type of article with other groups. So this is more so of looking at politicians as celebrities and really blurring the line between what a politician who makes policy versus a celebrity that's just supposed to entertain. So a couple of things I'll go really quick, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. So number one, why they're basically brothers. They both love basketball. Jay-Z, this is according to the article, Jay-Z helped to bring the NBA franchise to the hometown in Brooklyn. And while running for office in 2007, 2008, Obama became known as an avid basketball fan. Reason 2, they're both fans of Notorious B.I.G. I did not know that. All reasons to vote for Obama. 3, both Jay-Z and President Obama have beautiful wives who are successful in their own right. So then the article goes in to share how Obama graduated from Harvard Law School, worked for a Chicago law firm, and the article says, and in regard to Beyonce, she's Beyonce, and that's how it ends. And they both have lots of haters. Reason 4, while the majority of Jay-Z detractors tend to dwell within the hip hop community, Obama got haters in every area code.
Wait,
they're Black leaders. This is in the article. I'm reading from the article.
This is a real article.
I'll put it in the chat. There are Black leaders who criticize him for not being Black enough, in parentheses is Cornel West. And there's Fox News. And last but not least, they hang out together. Well, at least according to Jay-Z, apparently in a song lyric, which I won't repeat here, they hang out together, they're friends. And so these are the 5 reasons why they are basically brothers. What are your thoughts?
I mean,
Aaron, Brandon.
Go ahead, Aaron. Hop on in. These are your guys too. So go ahead. Hova. Go ahead, man. I know that's your guy.
And, y'all, this is, man, I'm going Mr. Fuller tonight, y'all. I'm going Mr. Fuller. Is this constructive? I don't know if this was the most constructive use of the time to write this article. I think that, and Kai said something earlier, and I hate that statement. You didn't do it on purpose, but moving the culture forward, oh my gosh. That's just one of those, because I don't even know what that means. Like, I need somebody to explain to me, like, what exactly does that mean? Because is highlighting this relationship between a rapper who's successful and Obama, who is a professional politician. Is this a constructive example of what not only Black people should be striving for, but the overall impact? And because I think that, and we're going to get into this, is that celebrity becomes a distraction for really what's happening in regular, everyday Black people's life. And what's happening in regular, everyday Black people's life is there are a lot of problems that need to be solved. And I was literally just having this conversation, and I said, have you seen like The Neighborhood, Shade Room, all these websites? Like, these websites combined have like 25 million people like viewing them daily on Instagram. That's a lot of Black people looking at this sort of content. But based on our results, is this content that we should be always digesting? So it's not surprising that Blavity would write something like this, because there's no political objective. And Kai's the political person, so I need her to correct me. I didn't hear you talk about policy. I didn't hear you talk about economics. I didn't hear you talk about social issues, housing. I didn't hear you talk about that. I heard that they like each other because they're brothers and they both got bad wives. Is that accurate, Kai? Is that accurate? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm just all right. No, Brandon, because I'm gonna become non-constructive. I don't know if
They got haters. They hang out together. Come
they
on,
got
that's why they
hate.
brothers.
I don't know. I just don't know if this was how during Mr. Obama's time. Really, if you think about it, this was an opportunity to really to highlight some serious issues in the Black community that really are plaguing things. And you guys know we all live in pretty big cities. There are people on the boots on the ground to where they are working every single day. And I mean, Brandon, Kai, myself, boots on the ground, talk about housing, talk about mental health, talk about Kai with fitness and yoga and things of that nature. Those are things that when you have these platforms that should be highlighted, not the fact that Barack has a bad wife and Beyonce's bad too, which is debatable because I think Kelly is fine. That's another
stop
thing.
it. Stop it. Stop light skin shaming.
Oh,
You better stop it right now, you sexist.
whatever. Go ahead.
You know, this actually is a continuation from our last conversation last week.
Yeah,
And what I mean by that is Blavity is a platform that perpetrates the culture that the young woman, the therapist that we talked about last week, produces and creates and demonstrates. Blavity started in 2014. The founder, I can't pronounce her last name, but her first name is Morgan. Beautiful woman. I reached out to her because I was trying to write for Blavity back then. And she's a genius. She created a space and she leveraged a time when blogging was almost at its peak. And then until we get to the vlogging era where we needed a space for Black voices. But the reason why there's a connection between what we talked about last week and this week is because this is the educated Black voice. Your average Black person in the hood is not reading Blavity articles. They're on the shade room. And even a lot of the educated ones, they're on the shade room too. But Blavity is supposed to be this. I went to college. I got a degree. I'm still hip. I'm at the cookout. Black folk, I hate talking about cookouts because we always call them barbecues until these uppity Negroes want to start talking about who's invited to the cookout and who ain't. Now think about that. That is this crowd. So when they're writing these articles, they're trying to highlight their educational essence, but at the same time be down with the culture, and they overdo it all the time. So writing this silly article about them being brothers because they got beautiful wives and haters and they got houses and all this stuff, like they are overdoing the culture. It's almost like being a Sambo. It's like this blackface culture thing that these folks are doing because they want to be connected. They don't want to have survivor's remorse. They want to be down. And that's why they go so hard on white supremacy, but they have cushy jobs and white husbands a lot of time, or white wives as well. This is it. Because they want to have quote unquote Black culture, and the only way they know how to represent it is to highlight their oppression. And it's crazy, but because a lot of these people are some of the most privileged Black people in this world, to be honest. It's crazy. It's crazy. So it's kind of borderline insulting that we have to have these kind of dialogues, and somebody would even take the intellectual space to write an article like this. Why does it matter if they're brothers or not? This is the same type of article that talked about Black men being the white supremacists of the Black community, because they are trying to find as many ways as possible to use this dysfunctional thinking in an educated space. And they just come up with illogical things. I'm going to pause there and let y'all get in.
I totally agree. I did use moving the culture forward on purpose. Because a lot of times we see celebrities say, oh, this is for the culture. I'm doing it for the culture. And I honestly have no idea what that means. Moving the culture forward to do what, and how exactly are you doing that? Or this is for the culture. But again, when you use kind of these phrases that aren't clear, and you just kind of get an emotional response out of them, then you can say anything. You don't have to have something that's clear and concise. You can just say something because you know that you'll get an emotional reaction out of it, and that's it. And so that's what we've kind of been doing as a community, where we're just kind of, and we'll go more into this, where these celebrities oftentimes and elected officials tap into our emotions instead of giving us actually concrete policy and actual change. And so this is why we have to have conversations like this tonight, because we're kind of stuck in this emotional space.
Absolutely. So, any other thoughts on the culture? I mean, I honestly, from my perspective, the culture is really just like this space of Black misery and pain. It's the trauma that we're all connected by. And as I said, you only really hear that coming from a particular group of Black folks. And it's the Black folks who actually have semi decent decent lives, who are talking about the culture this and the culture that. Everyday Black people don't really talk like that until it gets into hip hop spaces, right? So you'll hear it on like Joe Budden's podcast when somebody does something that's outside of the norm. So a rapper decides to start a farm or start an ice cream company. They're like, oh yeah, that's for the culture. Like, we're doing something different. But typically, you don't really hear that language outside of this kind of class of people with these degrees. Like, that's their version of being Black. It's talking about doing stuff for the culture, because they don't want that. They don't want to feel like they left the community. They don't want to feel like they don't want that survivor's remorse, because they want to make sure they stay connected and bonded to the people.
Yeah, I would. No, go ahead, Kai.
I just want to say I totally agree. And one other thing, I found it interesting that in the article they talked about what Jay-Z bringing Brooklyn, the Nets to Brooklyn. Like, he actually displaced a lot of people. So I don't understand in his community, like, that support him. So I don't understand why that would be a highlight in this article. I would think that would be something that they would not want to include in this list.
Yeah.
He had a minority stake.
People don't know that.
So small. But for a guy like him, it was so small to where it wasn't even worth, but he used it to help him leverage his own brand. And I'm not mad at him about that. Yeah. The one thing that I don't like about, and not us, but I don't like about these articles is what Mr. Fuller talks about. When Mr. Fuller was on the Cows and he said, we are not being serious. We are not serious about being very serious. I took that personal because I know he was talking to me. The issue is that we can't have these conversations with these intellectual people and say, hey, you guys are very serious about not being very serious, okay? Like, we can't say that, because Brandon knows this. It becomes you're attacking me. It becomes this. It becomes all these different things, when the reality is this a serious topic? And I'm guilty of it, so I can say it. I used to have a tendency to not be to be serious about stuff that I didn't need to be serious about. Nonsense. And so you have to change that mentality. And I'm an individual. This is a multi-million-dollar institution communicating information to people. And this is the kind of content that's constantly coming out. And it's an insult to Black intelligence. We talked about this last week, that this is how you think that these people need to be communicated to. If you start to make a different kind of content, guess what? And Brandon talk about this constantly. You got to mix it up. So you might start to see, I'm going to tone it down a little bit. I'm going to throw a little policy at them. I'm going to throw a little economic at them. I'm going to throw a little environmental. But then let me throw a Jay-Z article in there. Stop thinking that we can't absorb that information. That's my issue. Because I think that we can. Because we figure out how to do dances and spread them across the nation. I think we can figure out how to do some different things. But then that's me on my soapbox, man. What's the next slide, God dang it?
So next slide. These are some of the topics we're going to talk about tonight. As you already know, we're going to talk about Black celebrity, what's going on with that in the Black community. There you go. We'll also be talking about the Black community's access to clean drinking water, Bank's response to the racial homeownership gap. Apparently, there's some they've come up with some ways that they can help to increase Black homeownership. And we'll also be talking about the Black community's response to the death of Queen Elizabeth. Apparently, Black Twitter found some solidarity with Irish Twitter. I know Brandon's gonna have fun with that one.
Oh,
And then of course, Jeff Bezos and the Carnegie Mellon professor exchange tweets.
oh man. Yes. Yes.
Uh,
India Irie. All right.
yes. So I guess um, when we're looking at when we were talking about celebrity, there's two kind of things that were happening here that I want to get your take on, and it's about the political part, about the need to control like how Black people think about voting politically. We talked in our last episode, I think, about vote blue no matter who, and also how the blue checks, if you will, or celebrities, how they chime in at different parts of conversations related to race, kind of like when they decide to talk about race and how they decide to talk about it. And does that really benefit us as a group? So the first one I wanted to talk about and then get your perspective on. One is Jamel Hill. This is, so she's, I guess, like a reporter, political commentator,
Yeah.
activist. So this
Sometimes
is,
sports writer.
right. So this is her response to Joe Biden. So Joe Biden, this was during the campaign when he was interviewed by Charlemagne. And basically he said that if you don't vote for me, then you're not Black. And this is her response to it, if you can see it. Jamel Hill says, I don't have a problem with the statement because he was clearly referring to his former policy and track record standpoint. If you're Black and you support anti-Black policies and position, that makes you ... question mark. You're still technically Black, but you ain't with us. Now, I'm just imagining if Trump said what Biden said. So, Brandon,
Don't start with me. Yeah, I have a lot of concerns with what Jamel Hill shares. I'm not a Jamel Hill fan. I think she kind of burned herself at ESPN with some of her just outlandish takes sometimes with Trump. Um, I think since then she's found some lanes, but nothing's really like stuck. Her and Carrie Champion had a show together called Straight Shot No Chaser. I think we might have talked about that around that time when we were doing Straight Shot No Chaser.
I think so.
Oh man, and they used to do this thing on the show where they would have like these monologues, like they would take turns and they'd be like, yeah, that's Straight Shot No Chaser. And they would take a shot and slam the shot glass down. It was so corny. But you know, they got a bag from Showtime, so I can't hate on them. But this quote here, I bring this quote up a lot when I'm on several different platforms and we're talking about the Black community and we start talking about politics, because I think this was a very pivotal moment for Black people in current times, where we can point at how we've been misused by political parties. Because to me, that statement that Joe Biden made on the Breakfast Club was really disrespectful. And I really think he just made Black people seem just really pointless in politics. If you don't vote for me, you're not Black. So Black people don't have the agency to make the right political choices for themselves. I mean, it's the same thing that a lot of liberals say, and this is more of a liberal thing, like Blacks don't have IDs, and that's why, you know, they can't vote and stuff. They make up some of the craziest thought processes about Black people. If you watch the political debates between Trump and Biden before Biden won, when it came talking about what we were going to do after George Floyd, what are we going to do for the Black community, which was one of the questions during the debates, they went straight to prison reform. They went straight to that. Like, it was all about criminality. It wasn't about all the other issues and concerns that we have about Black people. So they've already identified how politically we fit. Criminals, and we just want your votes. And don't question anything I do. Don't think for yourself. If you ain't, hell, if you don't vote for me, you ain't a Black person. Now, a white person said this, and we did not have any backlash, but we'll have backlash for any other thing a white person does but that. And it was fueled behind the hatred for Trump, which even still I think was somewhat misguided. But at the end of the day, we could have made a different choice besides him too. Hell, we could all vote for Kanye if we really wanted to. It didn't matter at that point, because at the end of the day, politically, we're so all over the place that even the national politics isn't really where our focus should be anyway. We should be focusing more on local politics because it has a more direct impact on our day to day. So for Jamel Hill to come out and cape, for Biden and say, you ain't one of us, she's really putting herself in this standpoint of, yeah, I'm riding with Biden. I'm riding with the Democratic Party, and you ain't a black person if you don't understand that, because we're going to drive out hate, quote unquote, with our votes. And what do we have over the last 2 years? I mean, we've had 2 years of pretty much nothing but more insulting policies that have been given to us from the Biden administration. So it's interesting. It's interesting, and she's doing what she's supposed to do. That's why she's in that position. So I'm gonna pass it over to Aaron. What do you think?
Just I don't. Jamel Hill. I actually talked to Jamel Hill through email years ago because she wrote a really constructive article in like 08 or 09.
She's changed since then.
Well, you see about HBCUs and things of that nature. It was very constructive. What I've seen recently, I just don't think is as constructive. But this is to be expected, man. This is to be expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she's a Michigan State grad. She 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 fits this demographic that I keep talking about. I'm gonna keep pointing these people. It's the blue check Negroes, it's the black folks with degrees who are trying to maintain some level of blackness, so they like turn it up, and it's really like blackface, man. They're like playing this cultural character role to maintain their blackness. It's almost like, I don't know if y'all ever seen the movie Dear White People, how they were acted on that movie. Like they were extra, trying to be extra black on a white campus. Like they were just like being extra for no reason. But that's what this is. So you ain't one of us means you're not playing in this kind of position. You're not playing this role. So if you don't vote for Biden, then yeah, you ain't one of us. And they'll do the same thing for the next Democratic candidate as well, because that's the role they're supposed to play. But anyway, April Ryan, go ahead.
Yes. And I just, to your point, as we go into April Ryan, I think this shows what Neely Fuller talked about when he said that, I believe he said it, that white supremacy always goes through this refinement process. Mm-hmm. And so when we're looking at like the Jamel Hill and others who now are an April Ryan, who are kind of put out there to say the talking points that traditionally you would have white people say, but now we're seeing people that look like us that are saying these statements. And so now it's like, now the shaming that many of the white community used to do, now we have black people shaming us if we decide to think outside the box of how they think that we should think, vote, act, behave. And so obviously that's very problematic because they get promoted, they're on mainstream news, they're the ones whose voice becomes the loudest, and then they somehow speak on behalf of all black people.
I do want to address one thing. Shout out to all the comments. Ken had put something in there. Mr. Fuller, and I will make a statement with my chest, has categorically said black people are very serious about not being very serious. He has said that on multiple occasions. And before the episode is over, Brandon, you can go to YouTube. All you got to type in is Mr. Fuller being serious. You're going to see a clip of Mr. Fuller saying black people are very serious about not being very serious. He has even said that we are experts at not being serious about things that we need to be more serious about. So want some harmony? Shout out to Ken, appreciate it. But Mr. Fuller has always talked about our lack of being serious about things that we need to have a little bit more emphasis on and being more constructive. So that's it.
Why do y'all think that is? Why do you think that we have this tendency not to be as serious about things that we should be? What is y'all's perspective on that?
I think that because it highlights nobody wants to admit that, Brandon, nobody wants to admit that they're losing a game. Nobody wants to admit that they're losing a game. But we have this, I'll speak for myself. When I was a little bit less confused, sometimes you just want to fit in because you don't want to admit that you have deficiencies or things that you need to work on. Everybody needs to work on something. And as a community, that's something that we don't want to admit. Absolutely. Do we have an enemy? Absolutely. Have all these things happen? Absolutely. But highlighting them when the rest of the world highlights them, We don't like that, but also talking about it also prevents us from doing what we call executing or going in action. Because, and we're going to talk about this when we get into banking, you have to be an advocate for your own group, whether you like it or not. I don't see anybody else having problems when their group has problems. Advocate for yourself. But we don't like to advocate for ourselves because sometimes that admits that we have a problem. Brandon, I'm sure you see it in therapy. People not wanting to be honest about where they are.
Yeah, all the time. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard to be honest about where you are when there's a lot of shame behind it as well, you know. But yeah, it's crazy. What do you think? What do you think, Kai? Why do you think we're not as serious as we should be?
I think when you become serious, and I think about this in my own life, when I became serious about changes that I had to make to improve myself, to take an honest look at where I was professionally, personally, then I had to take accountability for my actions. And that caused me to mature. And I couldn't rely on someone else. I don't know if I'm in trouble for this, someone else to solve my problems. But I had to realize that I had to start solving my own problems. So I had to become a problem solver in my own life. And if I didn't do that, then I would just continue to point fingers and look without for someone to come in and help me solve problems. So I'm not saying that I didn't need an advisor or someone to consult with. You know, I think that was important on my journey. But at the end of the day, I had to, as Aaron said, I had to take action. I had to make decisions. I had to be accountable for why I was in the condition I was in. I had to look and say, okay, how did I get here? Why did I get here? And what changes do I need to make sure I start breaking these patterns of behavior so that I don't continue the same cycle? And all of that takes a lot of work. Yeah. And many times it's lonely work. So I think as a community, we need to realize, like, if we are truly about doing this type of work, sometimes it requires you to be alone and it requires you to ask yourself difficult questions in order to break cycles.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think that it's just, it just takes too much energy, time, and effort that we don't want to put out. And we've also grown very accustomed at not being serious. And we don't have anyone holding us accountable for not being serious. We just do whatever we want to do, and then it leads to dysfunction, and other people get to build their lifestyles, and their livelihoods off of our dysfunction. So it's like a twisted system that we have found ourselves in.
Hey, Brandon, can I add one more thing? More thing?
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
And so I think that being transparent and talking from real life situations is helpful. So, like, for example, as a parent, some of us, many of, Brandon and I have children. Let's say for some reason the children start to act out in behaviors that are non-constructive, right? But they are in your environment. You as a parent do not get to eliminate yourself from constructing the environment that they are acting out in. You had something to do with constructing the environment. Now, that doesn't mean you had every choice to do with their behavior, but you don't get to eliminate that. And a lot of times that's what I think that people do, that Black people do. It's like, well, we didn't do anything. This is all is white supremacy. Is it? Well, what is our response to it? How are we responding to it? You can say, I have not been responding very serious to this problem. And I have a serious problem. And that is a start, Kai. Just saying that. I have not responded to this properly. It's like somebody wants to lose some weight. You know what? I got to look in the mirror. There were some things I needed to do, or I need to do. I haven't done them. And I didn't respond to this problem properly. Right there, you can have a level of empathy. You can start with a level of grace, and you can make progress. But sitting there saying, man, shoot, you know what they be putting in that food. How long you going to say that? I mean, because hold on, before we go to the next slide, because if we continue to do that, I'll just speak about myself personally, since no other Black people have this problem. If you continuously do that, you put yourself in a category of being a person that is habitually going to lose, and you have no hope. Then the question becomes, is that who we are? That's really what it becomes. Is that essentially who we are? Or can we be something different? And if you want to be something different, you just got to get serious. Each one of us, united, independent.
Absolutely. Let's bring in April Ryan. What's going on with her?
Brandon was waiting for this. He's so excited.
I'm not excited. I'm not as excited as you think I am.
So I thought this was interesting for many reasons. So this is a new book that April Ryan has coming out. Probably have heard of her. She was a White House correspondent, CNN political analyst, and also she's with the Griot. So this is a book that she has coming out. And the book is Black Woman Will Save the World.
Why are you laughing, Aaron? So rude.
So I found it interesting of how these political commentators or entertainers, celebrities when they use race and how they use race.
Yeah.
So I want your opinion on that, Brandon, also to expand upon the other what the other message that this sends. But also, I just want to tie in how this relates to India Arie. Now, I am a huge India. I love her music, right? So this this image of her, this goes along with you guys probably heard. I think it was earlier this year where she wanted to take her music off of Spotify, and she said it was because basically with the Joe Rogan statements that he made, racist statements. There was some like old videos of his that came up. This was during the whole push to get him like deplatformed and all that. So I took a look at her tweet, which I can pull up, Brandon, while you're speaking. And she says that the main issue, yes, she was upset. She didn't want to share a platform with Spotify who allowed him to kind of spew this type of language. But the real issue was regarding money.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily about race, but Black people were worked up. Right? Like our community was worked up because we were like, Joe Rogan needs to be off of Spotify. He's racist. He hates Black people. And India is like, yeah, he hates Black people. But by the way, I'm not getting paid what I should be getting paid as an artist.
Hey, man, when you got that microphone, you better use it.
Right. So with that being said, I'll pull up the tweet, Brandon, while you talk about
April Ryan
celebrities.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things that we have to be honest about, because a lot of times, when we have our conversations and we talk about strategies, we get to the honesty conversation. Like we got to be honest about this, we got to be honest about that, and we have to be honest that inserting race in today's society gives you a little bit of a bump. It's like an extra ability. Like we were in a video game, we get an extra couple of points up XP to do things. So when we write a book and we talk about Black women are saving the world, or Black artists aren't getting our just due, and Joe Rogan's racist, by the way, I ain't getting paid for the amount of streams that I'm getting on my music. It's like we're trying to find that way in to get that extra increase, that extra bump. It's funny though that this happens really only from my perspective, kind of celebrity world or entertainment. Because in real life, and this is and you all let me know what you've experienced, when I'm working with other Black professionals and we're talking about like how much we should charge for, services and things like that, we a lot of times we undersell ourselves, where I'm like, no, you need to go ahead and use that cultural experience you have and add a couple $100 to your fee, because that's why they're bringing you in. And you don't even understand somebody who's doing something twice as worse as you and may not be as articulate as you are, may not have the same skill set, may have a boring presentation or anything like that. They're getting paid damn near double than what you're getting paid. And it's because we haven't culturally learned the right ways to negotiate and to put a value on our cultural essence. But what ends up happening is in celebrity world, they'll use it to get what they need. The same thing with Black Lives Matter, right? They're going to get their bag based on the culture. But when in regular everyday life, we haven't necessarily developed that skill set to do so. What are you going to say, Aaron? Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was actually going to go back to the, India Arie using I don't want to, it's not a finesse, but I mean, I get it, India. It was, it's just, you hop aboard that horse and you ride it, so, it's kind of a weird place to be in, but I want to kind of talk about that book. And I know that And Brandon, you hit me with the M word. That is Brandon is teasing y'all. I'm not a misogynist at all. Please don't say that. Misogynist. But the problem that I have with the title of that book, and it's not the fact that the book was written, it's not the fact of the content. I am afraid, and Brandon and Kai, I want you guys to tell me if I'm thinking correctly about this. I think that book, the author intentionally knows that sort of content is also
Yes.
devaluing Black males, and I think that they know. Because and that title also goes into the argument, the world famous argument now that we just heard. We'll probably talk about it by the end of the show between Cynthia G and Dr. Umar. It's that kind of thought process. And I will say, and I will because that's the way that it's being portrayed, is that these Negroes haven't done anything good and we can just save everything. And that's not only a dangerous attitude, but I think that it's disingenuous. And the issue I have is that sisters, if they are, just like Black men need to speak up more for Black women. Absolutely. We need to advocate for them. We need to say when things are incorrect. We need to do all of that stuff. I need the sisters that know that this is agenda to not say anything. They know that this is being propagated. Because this woman knows that this is a divisive book. I think so. I think, and she could probably say wrong. I heard her prove it to too much content, and I'd actually like to hear from Kyle. Honestly, yeah, it's too much of this content. And then all of a sudden you hear a TV show, Black men at this, and it's like, where is the harmony that we need to create? Like, is this no longer a community? This is just y'all just got it. Y'all, matter of fact, no other group got it. Y'all got it.
It is a community. It's a community of Black women. And Black men, we're just we don't count. We made our bed. We apparently we left them a long time ago. So you said you wanted to hear Kai, so I'm gonna shut up. Go ahead, Kai.
I mean, it's a community of Black. There's not even any Black children. It's literally just Black women. And yeah, I think the book is extremely problematic. And yes, done on purpose. One that taps into the ego right now of that, like, Black women can do no wrong. They're the ones that, like, even during the political campaign, it was like Black women will save the democracy. Black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. And meanwhile, Black men vote Democrat about over 80% of the time. So there's this whole narrative that of just pushing Black women to the top and saying, like, this is just happening because Black women are so great. But in all honesty, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, of how white supremacy continues to refine itself. What we're seeing right now happening with Black women, how does that benefit the community?
Yeah.
And how am I as a woman okay with my community suffering? I'm just saying as a whole, but I am being elevated. If I'm supposed to be the nurturer for that next generation, right? If I'm supposed to pour into that next generation and they're failing, right? We don't have access to clean drinking water. We talked about how our communities are suffering as far as with violence, just everything basically bad that's happening to different communities throughout the US. And we're looking at, all the things that are happening in communities across the US, and we're seeing how it's detrimental, how worse it is for the Black community. So it's like, and how am I okay with that? Because I'm going to get my PhD. Black women are being celebrated, because we got a Black Little Mermaid. I mean, it's absurd. I'm sorry.
I think the Black Little Mermaid is a good thing, but this is what I don't. I'm pulling up some proof. Mm-hmm. Back in June, we had a podcast. I think it was our last one before we took our hiatus. And it was around Father's Day. We were talking about Black fathers and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And on that day, a show came out. On that day, on MSNBC. This was the show, y'all. The show was titled "The Culture Is Black Women," a celebration of women of color through honest, thought-provoking conversations. And I sent
Yeah, we
this to
talked
you
about that. Yeah.
guys. I did this purposely because I knew I was going to need it in the future. This show was released on Father's Day of this year. On Father's Day. And this show came on prime time on MSNBC. We're being signaled that black men are nothing. All we are criminals and bastard baby makers. I'll just use that term. That's it. The focus on
Right.
development, growth, success, community is all black women. When they say black, that is now code word for black women. When they say BIPOC, that's a code word for all black people, or not all people of color, quote unquote. But when they say black, they're talking about black women. Black men have been completely wiped out of that conversation. And we don't even understand that this is going on. But if you're paying attention to the entertainment world, to the social service world, to the education world, that's what's happening. Black women are being given a lot of opportunity to make a lot of change happen for themselves, and they're taking it. I don't blame them for taking it. If it was black men doing it, I would understand that. But if we're not going to be in tandem and figure out how to leverage these opportunities for the entire community, including black men, and I would say including children, I think children by default end up with black women. We're going to
Right.
be in trouble. But this is what I'm talking about being insulted and not understanding what's happening. Where you can release a show on Father's Day that is titled "The Culture Is Black Women." Like, that is so disrespectful. Like, that is completely disrespectful. So what do y'all think? And the black women they have on here are all notable black women. I mean, the picture's kind of small; you can't see it that well. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. But yeah, this is where we're
Those
at.
are your blue checks.
Yeah, thank you, blue check Negroes. I keep saying it. Y'all think I be making this stuff up, man. I'm telling you, this is something's happening here. But I mean, man, look at this. Joy Reid. I forgot this woman's name. She's the woman who started the Me Too movement. The lady that's on The View. I don't know who these two sisters are. This woman's
I
been in
think
entertainment for a long
Kai.
time. Who else is on here? God, I don't know who the rest of these two women are, but this is interesting, right? Tiffany Cross and Joanne Reed are the two. Tiffany Cross is this woman here. I've seen her on stuff too. So yeah, this is where we're at as far as where things are going. Black men are just being kind of kicked to the curb, and the narratives that we are getting on black men is the destructive things that black men are currently doing, and really it's just black boys. If we're really gonna be honest, I mean, black boys are here wilding. I mean, people are getting shot daily all across the country. People are carjackings, home invasions, stuff I'm coming here talking about all the time. And a lot of it's black boys, but nobody wants to be honest about that. And nobody wants to say that we have a cultural issue with black boys that we need to fix. And it includes black women being a part of that and black men being a part of that conversation to fix that. But instead, we get focuses like this on the culture. And the culture is being code word for black women. That's what the culture is. And I don't know. I feel like a broken record sometimes, but we continue to get these same messages over and over and over again. It's insulting, but
It is
whatever.
insulting. It does nothing to help our community at all. And I know sometimes it feels like, are we just talking to the wall? Not saying the people that are joining us tonight, but sometimes you just say things so much and it's like, why isn't this kind of gaining steam that other people are seeing it to wake up that this is actually a detriment to our community, to our family? It's not a positive unless, like you said, you're leveraging those opportunities to help the community. But I have seen arguments where black men are saying, well, we always put other people before us, so now this is our time. So no, I'm not going to kind of share. I'm doing this for me. I've seen that argument too when you're saying, well, how about making sure that this benefits the community? There's the argument of it's my time to shine, basically. And so I think that goes back to needing to be serious and understanding the system that we're in and what the system is designed to do. But that takes work to do that. It takes your own internal work. And if you don't want to do that and you just want to feel good, you just want to get attention, then you're going to stick with what the mainstream narrative is.
Black women are killing it in all areas. And I'm not mad. Honestly, I'm not. I just want I want to be very clear on what's happening and that we're being left behind. So we can't get mad at this. They're going to just keep on striving forward. But this is it. This is the representation. This is the result of George Floyd's death and all that diversity, equity, inclusion training and uplifting Black voices and saying her name. This is the results that we're going to receive. It's not community development. It's Black women empowerment to full throttle. And sisters are going to just say, damn right. It's about time. Now get out of our way and let us do our thing. And I'm very interested to see where this goes. Go ahead.
No, you good. I do think that, and this was pointed out to me, and I had to be accountable for it. The level of disgust and the level of disappointment that we're having towards some of these Black women that are pushing forward these narratives and saying those statements and all this stuff. As Black men, we have to have the same level of vitriol for these dusty Negroes out here that are doing the same exact. And that's something that we have to, and I think as a community, if we match that energy, I think that we'll start to see some level of constructive results, because I do think that as men, we don't call out enough stuff. We do let too many things slide. However, Kai said something earlier, and I'll be honest, it bothers me. It almost brings a tear to my eye, but I also had to ask myself, did I feel the same way about Black women? We have to, and Kai said, how could they just let this, how could women just sit back and let this happen or occur in the community? And I think in many ways, Black men have done the same thing. Now, we shouldn't be modeling bad behavior. That's the other problem. That's the other problem. And the other thing I like to point out, as Gus always used to talk about, when it doesn't matter how you feel, but 52 to 53% of women, white women, voted for Donald Trump. Which means at the end of the day, even after all that bad behavior, there wasn't this moral standard. They were group first. And we have somehow gotten away from a collective. And it's just been a slow chipping away. But when the crap was about to hit the fan, they advocated for their group, even with the problems. And I don't even know if we think it's important enough, but yeah, when I hear, listen, look, when I hear brothers talking about they going overseas to date to not date a Black female, I feel the same way. I feel the same way about divestors, and I have to be honest about that, because it's foolishness. Because humans have the same level of problems. Women have problems with men, and men have problems with women. But if we're looking for harmony, this ain't it, y'all. We ain't getting it doing this foolishness.
I don't think they were looking for harmony. I think people are saying, choose your corner and we'll see you on the other side. And that's where you get titles like Black Women Will Save the World. An anthem. This is this is an anthem. Like that means sound the harm.
You want me to sing it for you? I'm FREE.
Exactly.
Well, I do want to say, because I know we're going to move forward, but I think the next slide, it talks about exactly what we're saying, is keeping into this whole conversation about Black women and how Hollywood or politics, celebrities use race. So I just wanted to play this snippet. Let's see if that goes to the next slide.
Oh yeah, the woman king. Here it is.
Okay.
So we're
all right,
let's get some Jimmy Fly Snicker vibes. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, man. Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know. I might actually watch this movie. I'm not gonna go to the theater to see it, but I'm gonna check it out when it comes out, because there's some inaccurate history apparently. I want to really see how they push this out. Oh yeah, we got the Viola Davis comments from earlier. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, this is good.
So, and let me know if you can hear it okay.
Yep.
But that resonated with me. What do you think about that in terms of moving forward and making this normal? Because this carpet feels different for me. I've been doing this for a while.
Absolutely. I completely 100% agree. But here's the thing I'm going to add to that.
Okay.
It will just be a moment if people don't come see the movie.
Hey, you heard?
Okay?
That's right.
Because you're sending a very clear message to a machine called Hollywood. A machine called Hollywood is interested in green. It just is. It is what I do. So if you don't come see it, then you're sending a message that Black women cannot lead the box office globally, that you are supporting that narrative. And if you want to normalize it, come see it the same way you would, the same way you would Black Panther,
Spider-Man.
Iron Man, Spider-Man, or any other movie that doesn't have any of us in it, or one or two of us in it. So.
I'll see you guys tomorrow, but tonight, enjoy yourself, please. And welcome to Toronto. Let's go.
Thank you.
Like the video? Then
Oh, that's I know they were in Toronto. So yeah, I guess I'm supporting white supremacy because I'm not going to see the movie. But I don't go see no movies. I wait till it hits the stream, baby. I don't go see nothing. Unless my kids are like, yo, let's go, dad, take us to the movie theater. Then I'll go take them to a kid movie. But I don't really go to movies like that. But yeah, I mean, what she's saying, you're right, Kai. What she's saying is exactly what we're talking about. And again, it's this same thing Biden was saying. This emotional support, right? You need to support this just because if you don't, then we're not going to have these opportunities. Viola Davis is a very accomplished actress. Like it's very interesting that she's saying this. And it'd be different if she was like, because these other actresses, this may be their one big shot, and that's why you should come out. But she just made it about the system, like because they care about green, and if you don't come see it, we ain't gonna get no more of these Woman King movies. And it's like, but we do. We get these women. You lead a lot of these damn movies yourself. What are you talking about? Yeah, one of the biggest TV shows in the last 10 years. Anyway, let me shut up. Go ahead. Maybe she should stop taking these roles and let some other sister get some roles. I don't just joke. What do y'all think? I have a lot of issues with this movie just because it's coming at a very opportune time. And this whole narrative that's going on, that's just washing men away. And the title is very, very divisive, right? So the Woman King, like, what is that supposed to mean? It has nothing to do with LGBTQIA plus, has nothing to do with that. So before people dive on that, it has nothing to do with that. But what is this saying? And it's the same thing that happened in Black Panther. You go back and watch that movie. Black Panther, he was getting dominated and controlled and told what to do by Black women damn near that whole movie. But no one ever said anything about it. Like, if you go watch that movie, Black women were always guiding and steering Black Panther. I mean, it's the same narrative that we have in the community. And we do have women kings all across the nation. And until Black men are ready to step into a position and Black women are ready to cooperate, we're going to continue to have women kings. And we know that this movie is not historically accurate. But guess what? The blue check Negroes don't care because they're going to be, Jamel Hill's going to be complaining that nobody went to go see this movie. Watch. Go ahead.
Right. No, I ain't got nothing for the movie. I ain't got nothing.
Oh, come on, you chickened out, man.
I don't.
He's talking all this stuff in the green room, y'all. Now he don't want to say nothing. His girl must have came back to the hotel room from the bar, and he don't want to talk no more. Simp. Come on, simp.
No, you be told, Brandon, I haven't even been interested in it. I haven't seen it. That was the first time I heard anybody talk about it. Somebody just asked me about it the other day. I'm like, that movie's in the movie theaters? Because it just hasn't been on my radar. Because I'm just like, it just hasn't been. I'm sure that somebody might find it constructive or not, but I'm just gonna go reference back to what I said earlier about the narrative that's very dangerous that we were talking about. And that all of this stuff is at a very opportune time. Everything. It's almost like the pieces are falling together perfectly. Fox Soul, the movie, it's just everything. It's just too convenient, Kai. It's just too eerily convenient. That's all I got. It's too convenient.
Yeah. And I'll say too, like this movie, and then as you said, a lot of other type of, whether it's a book, TV show, articles that are being written. And it made me think of how there's also this like revision of history taking place in school systems.
Mm-hmm.
And initially I thought, as a community, we're not going to kind of stand and watch and allow books to be rewritten about exactly what happened. But when I see a story such as this, where this Viola Davis is playing the role of a woman who is in a ethnic group that supposedly was involved in flesh trade, right? Where this group was actually selling Africans to Europeans. And then we're right now being told, you need to go watch this and you need to celebrate this. And if you don't, you're not going to get any more movies like this. Well, maybe we don't want any more movies like this where we're celebrating people that are actively involved in a flesh trade. And how do we just kind of gloss over that and not talk about the emotions that we may have as a community watching something like this? And it's once again that need of others controlling how we feel, how we think, and using shame when we don't agree with what they're forcing on us.
Right.
And how we're going along with somewhat changing history. Like we're going right along with that. And that is deeply concerning.
Agreed.
Yep.
So before Brandon explodes, I feel like I should go to the next slide.
He already gave Brandon. Look, Brandon already gave it 2 thumbs down, man. Brandon already did.
No, I'm not rating the movie. I'm just saying, this is a very opportune time for this title. It doesn't do good for us. I hope this movie. I hope it's actually good because I am gonna actually watch this movie.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a review. You think?
Yeah, we should. When this movie comes out, it'll be streaming before the holidays because they got to get them sales in. We'll watch it. We'll come back. We'll talk about it and see, and just pick out some things that happened in the movie because I don't want to just throw it away. I think Viola Davis is actually a great actress, so I'm interested to see her performance. I know that she was working hard on. I've seen some clips of them working out, doing all this jiu-jitsu and all types of stuff. So it's gonna be interesting. I really want to see how it all plays out because what I've been hearing about this group historically is it's not what the movie is portraying. So it's going to be very interesting. Now, if we're just talking about Black women being superheroes, that's a different kind of conversation. And I do think that we do need Black women superheroes. I think that that's important. But I don't like the fact of rewriting history to do that. If we're going to create Black women superheroes, just create a new story. This story didn't have to come out at all. Nobody knew about this damn group unless you're some super duper deep, Afrocentrist person. Outside of that, nobody knew who this group was until now. And maybe that's good, but don't shift the history. Tell the truth and make a good movie. So maybe they will be rounding up Negroes and shipping them and selling them to the Europeans. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Right. Next.
That is a dope picture, though.
Shout out to Kai for getting us organized.
Right. So this, I know we spent a lot of time talking about elected celebrities, but these are some topics that are not getting as much attention, or maybe starting to get, a little bit more attention. But the focus has been there because of whatever else is going on in celebrity world. And so let me just my notes. So one thing that you probably have started to hear about is what's happening in Jackson, Mississippi with a water crisis. Some articles that we'll find online, they will say, oh, the water crisis is due to climate change. Now, I'm not here to argue whether there is such thing as climate change, but when you read various articles, it tells you that there's an infrastructure problem. That there's old pipes, and a lot of this, of course, has to do with race. So when I looked on Twitter to see members of the Black Caucus who are supposed to be advocates for us, they were silent on this water crisis until it started to get picked up by mainstream.
Right.
Now, meanwhile, while this crisis was occurring, you'll see that there's a tweet from Shayla Jackson Lee. She was in Pakistan, ensuring that the communities there have access. You can see the tweet there, but there's another one where she's talking about them having access to clean drinking water. And nothing on her page was about Jackson, Mississippi. The other one here, we see the Black woman with the fro. I kind of want to see if I can pull that one up. This was, again, very troubling. Sorry. Let's see. So while I try to pull that up, there's also in NYCHA, one of the public housings, there was an issue with piping as well. There was a where's the article? Okay, so I can't find. Okay, here we go. So I'll go back to NYCHA in a second. So this one, the lady that you see, the Black woman on your screen with the fro, she is in California, and this is an area called Allensworth in California. And this was a community that was established by a Black man who fought for his freedom. And so this area had to deal with an issue of water, lack of access to water for a while. But he had developed a plan of how he could get drinking water to this community. So I'll go as quickly as I can. So this was established by Lieutenant Colonel Allen Allensworth. He was the town's founder. He was born into slavery and escaped to fight for the Union during the Civil War. And so he decided to leave the South and go to California to basically start a place where African Americans could go so that they could start their own community. So the part that is interesting is that this community would receive water from a nearby White River. But a few years after Allensworth was established, powerful white farmers diverted the stream to irrigate their crops and cut off the town's supply. Now, this article came out a few days ago. Unfortunately, Allensworth had a backup plan, the groundwater, which is using groundwater. So the town planned to tap into the ancient aquifers, I believe that's how you say that, that ran deep underground in Central Valley. So basically they had worked with a firm, and the firm said that they would drill these wells so that the community would have access to clean water. The name of the firm that would do this was called Specific Farming, but it reached a settlement that left the town in debt, so they did not fulfill their contract. And they only drilled some of the wells, but they kept their contract that they had to do the drilling with the majority white community. And this has been a continuous battle in this community to have access to water. So it's just concerning that stories like this not getting any attention. I saw some tweets, and not taking any shade away from like Serena Williams. She worked hard, and other celebrities, not trying to minimize their accomplishments. But when I see like Obama, Michelle Obama, or other political leaders who are retweeting and celebrating what celebrities have done, but yet we have so many of our communities that do not have clean access to clean drinking water. But then we have a politician that's going to Pakistan to try to make sure they have clean drinking water.
Wow.
Like this is all very insulting.
The kind, not only is it insulting, the other thing that I know,
Wow.
you guys need to, make the donations. If you there's a Vogue article, I'll try to shoot it to you before we get done. There's a Vogue article. They had some good clips on there. They had 3 different organizations. 2 of those organizations were boots on the ground. I made a donation to those last week, so you can help. But I think the issue is, I would be very curious to see what the military budgets are for those police departments in those particular cities that have a ton of Black people in them. Now, there was no issue with defunding or anything of that nature, and there might have been, but for a city to not have operating water with U.S. citizens. I want everybody just to think about that. You got U.S. citizens that don't have water. You know, Pac said it best, and we say it all the time, but you got money for war, you can't even feed the poor. And so, but this is what the celebrity part, Kai, you're correct, because I'm telling you, and this is just my tinfoil kufi on, there are organizations down there that are on the ground that are actually doing work, and many politicians do not want to be associated with those organizations, because then you really have to start to address the problem, because they are banging on doors. They're making this a national issue, saying, I think on one of those articles you might even have up there will say it, this was something that they addressed 6 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, that said that this infrastructure was already bad. The EPA came in there and said that the water system was bad. And now we're here. And now we have big organizations like Vogue and Esquire and the New York Times. But this is something that can be solved very, very easily. And we need to hold our public officials accountable, because digging wells and infrastructure, and this is what Mr. Fuller talks about, Black people being moved around. Move them into the city, and then they're economically deprived. And oh, by the way, they don't have any water. This is a travesty. But what we can do is make a donation. I'm gonna see if I can find that article for you, Kai.
Wow. I put the article in the back chat. I think I found it. Yeah, I put it in. I put it in the chat too on YouTube.
Perfect.
But I mean, this highlights a point that we talked about earlier: how important it is to focus on local politics.
Yes.
Because when you're able to put your politicians in place, people that are willing to address these types of issues, they won't feel like these politicians, like you were saying, Aaron, that are not addressing the issue. Like this is a travesty, man. I mean, from Flint, Michigan, to down there in Mississippi, to Florida, and there's probably other places that are just not getting the shine that their water is contaminated. And yes, it's going to be in poor areas where you have Black people or Latinos as well, that do not have running water. But again, if you're not going to play the political game, you'll get the scraps, or you'll get old pipes, or you'll get unfresh water. Like, you have to get politically active. In the neighborhood that I live in, people are politically active. And we had a water contamination problem, and it got fixed. And they sued the crap out of the company that caused it, and they are fixing it to this point. And that's because the community came in, they put their politicians in, and they went after that company and held them liable for contaminating part of our water source. But that's how it gets done. Donations are helpful, but how many damn bottles of water are we going to buy?
Yeah, that's
real. We got to get them pipes
fixed.
fixed. We got to get that water cleaned up for these people. Or those people need to relocate to a better area, which is easier said than done. And this is why politics and building a foundation in the community is important. But we're so dependent on other people doing those things for us. This is what happens when they stop giving a damn. They don't need to fix our communities for us. They can move on to somewhere else. And I'm terrified to see places like California, what's going to happen, homelessness through the roof. And a lot of those homeless people got good jobs. Mm-hmm. What are the Black people doing in California?
Right.
I'm terrified, man. I'm scared. So, we have to develop a level of patriotism in this country and participate. Yes, racism and white supremacy is alive, has been alive, and has become more refined. But at the end of the day, this is our home, and we have to fill in and fall into society. That doesn't mean that we got to coon and break our backs and become bedwinches and all these other things that we call each other. But what it does mean is we got to play this game and live our lives to the best of our ability. Because this is just sad, man.
It is.
No one should live under these types of conditions, period. I mean, this is ridiculous.
And this is just the Brandy hit Brandy out, but I think Kai's going to touch on this. This is just the one we know about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah,
right. It's so true. And before we go to the next, I just want to say our Sheila Jackson Lee, who I don't know if you guys know, she is she's supposed to be championing HR 40. I think it's HR 40 regarding reparations. Now, if you're for or against it, that's kind of not the point. But if you're championing a bill that's supposed to, I think that one is just to study a commission on why Black folks need reparations. So if you're championing that bill, but you don't have anything on your Twitter feed, you don't have any type of press about what's going on in this community that you're supposed to be representing, why are you championing that bill? And why are you really in office? So a few days ago, she actually spoke at the National Baptist Convention. And I saw some of that, some of her speech in which she, again, tapped into the emotional part of the Black community, talking about we come from slaves, from sharecroppers, and look what we can do now. And then she tied in voting. We have the opportunity to vote. And then she pivoted and talked about how now is the time to for sacrifice. Like the Black community hasn't sacrificed enough. And she started to talk about how we need to help those in the Ukraine and Pakistan. Now, listening to that after seeing how we don't have clean drinking water, we talk about the homelessness situation.
Yep.
So I think that's an example of when we need to, when that happened, I'm sorry, everyone in that convention should have walked out.
I agree. That ain't happening, but I agree. I agree. I mean, you're not wrong, Kai. Kai, not only are you not wrong, but you have to just think about the fact that where is the Uncle Joe and the sister girl? Cut the check. Look, this ain't cut the check, bro. Cut the check. Cut the check.
Just cut a check.
Hey, listen, the one thing I know is that when they are serious about something, Brandon, it will get done. Don't let them people fool you. Like in that community, cut the check. They'll figure it out. Cut the check, Joe. You know what? Executive order. We have U.S. citizens in Jackson, Mississippi that don't have infrastructure. We can sell some bonds. The city will be on a repayment plan or whatever we got to do. But we cannot have U.S. citizens not having water. This is a democratic tragedy or whatever we're going to call it. We're going to send resources down there. Now, guess what they did? They sent the National Guard down there. Did you send anybody that can fix them daggone pipes? Because that's the issue. You send it. We have some smart engineers, smart architects, some smart people in this country that have solutions to this. Cut the check. U.S. citizens. I'm not even saying Black people. You have U.S. citizens. Those people have jobs. They pay taxes. They're part of the infrastructure. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Wow. Yeah, man. This is sad. I don't even have a lot of words for this.
So I think, to your point, I think it shows the importance of being locally, as far as what am I trying to say? I'm trying to get to this right screen. Being active locally.
Yeah.
You know, and even though you may say you're not reaching out to your member of Congress, but you can put pressure on your local elected officials to put pressure on Congress members and senators. So you can definitely create some wave there, but just for her to feel comfortable when Black people are in the state that we're in as a community, and for her to say that we should sacrifice more, what other community would you do that to?
Right.
You know, but moving along, this is hand this over to Aaron. We're going to be talking about banks, how banks are going to or starting to respond to racism in home ownership. And I do have that video, so just let me know you want me to set that up.
Yeah. So obviously, I'm sure that people have seen that Bank of America has a product that they're about to roll out specifically targeted towards I'm gonna use Black and brown, Brandon. I'm gonna be politically correct.
You better BIPOC all day.
Black and brown communities, but specifically Black and Latino communities in DC, LA, Miami, Detroit, and also Charlotte. The programs are no money down. The programs do not require a credit score for qualification, but they do require a credit score. You got to have 2 scores. It's going to be a lot of common sense underwriting. So they're going to look at how you pay your current utility bills and things of that nature. Can't have any rental rates and things of that nature. But it is a true no money, no closing cost loan. So obviously, you know, the tenfold koofies start popping on to everybody. They say this is a scam. They're trying to take advantage of people, so forth and so on. I've talked about this. I did a video on myself, but I just want people to be reminded, when these big banks come out, they don't just press a button and put a program together. They have a ton of information and studies that have been done to show whether or not these programs are going to be constructive or non-constructive. This program, based upon historical data, there is a high likelihood, and Kyle, you can start pulling up that clip, a high likelihood that this is not going to be constructive. And the reason for it is because these loans typically, and I actually heard this today. I told you guys, I'm going to use my NMLS number real quick, 239-638, because I'm talking about banking. But I'm in a banking meeting here today. And the gentleman that's a certified mortgage banker was teaching a class today, and he stated that families, and that's in that little clip, the little thing I sent you earlier, Kyle, that families that put no money down, zero money into a transaction, have a higher default rate than people who are than somebody that would pay only $500 to get into a house, because you have to have some level of skin in the game. What that means in layman's terms, folks, is that the banks have already counted that a lot of these loans are going to default. But this is not about whether or not this is helping Black people. This is about giving the facade that they will help Black people. And then when the loans default, guess what they're going to say? We gave it to you. We did it. We did it.
Crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And so, but because listen, people have to understand they have enough information. So I think, Kyle, if you're ready for the clip, if we can go ahead and play it. Let's.
And you want me to start at 107 or just start it?
Start at the 107 mark. You don't run the whole thing. Let's start at the 107 mark. And I just want everybody to pay attention to this real quick. This is the National Real Estate Podcast, and they do a lot of constructive information. But let's just listen to this real quick, and then we're going to stop it.
I see ABL. You're going to get us in trouble.
Get around it.
Bank of America Corporation started a trial program aimed at helping first-time homebuyers in Black and Hispanic neighborhoods by offering mortgages that don't require down payments, closing costs, or minimum credit scores, all considered long-time obstacles to narrowing the gap between white and minority ownership. Customers using the program will be evaluated for a home loan not by credit scores, but rather other factors such as their history of making rent, utility, phone, and auto insurance payments on time, says B of A in a statement on Tuesday. The program will be tested in certain predominantly Black and Hispanic areas of Dallas, Detroit, Los Angeles, Miami, and Charlotte, North Carolina. But Bank of America would not disclose the planned size of the program, which may be expanded later to other cities.
You've got to be kidding me on this one. Not to mention, this is the worst idea in the history of mortgage underwriting ever. Why? Because these loans are going to fail. We know this before we even write the loans, and yet we're still going to write these loans. Don't listen to me. Listen to the Urban Institute and see what they have to say about this.
Lower down payment loans perform worse, all things being equal, but all things are not equal. So says Lori Goodman, an Institute fellow at the nonprofit Urban Institute, speaking generally about programs and not of B of A's in particular. She goes on to say that there is a way to offer these loans where it isn't as risky, where other factors can more than compensate for a low down payment. And there is an argument, she added, for taking on a slightly higher probability of default in order to give people the opportunity to build wealth.
I don't know if you guys caught how slippery that was. What she just said. It's kind of antiseptic, though, don't you think? Very sterile. We are going to compassionately let you fail on this loan. We have created a loan that looks like we care, but what you're missing is we don't. And these loans are going to radically underperform, and we know it because we've done this before, but we're going to do it again because it gives you the illusion that we care. But trust me, we don't. They just cleaned this whole thing all up and still revealed the truth that we all know. These loans are a write-off before they've ever been written in the first place.
Applicants don't need to disclose their race, and U.S. Census data will be used to determine that eligible neighborhoods are predominantly Black or Hispanic, according to Barclay. There's no minimum or maximum loan size under this new offering, which qualifies as an FDIC special purpose credit program.
Have we not learned our lesson before?
This sounds like 2008 all over again.
All right, so let's just talk about this. It's a
Shout out to ABL.
So again, this is what I mean about when I talk to people about like local lending. You got to get into the weeds of this kind of stuff. But I do want to. I'm going to take this time to give myself a little bit of credit, but to just this kind of stuff is why I tell people you have to be an advocate for your own group. And when I say your own group, I'm talking about the group that's in your household. So Kai, you got a group right now of 2. Brandon's got a group. What you got? 5, Brandon?
5.
Got 5 there,
Yeah,
Brandon?
5.
Brandon has a group of 5. Aaron, I have a group of I think 6 now because I got I got some old kids, but a group of 5, 6, or something like that. But you don't have to participate in these programs if we can learn to talk about how family members can give each other gifts towards a down payment, how we can learn how to save resources, how even if Kai could come to me as a friend and I could give her a gift, or Brandon, we can pool resources. You have to be an advocate for your own group, because the one thing I don't want to hear about is, oh, these programs are taking advantage of people, when you do have alternatives. But the alternatives have to start with the people that have the resources helping each other out. And you got to advocate for yourselves, because other groups do this all day long. Yes, we're economically deprived. Yes, we have all these things going on, but we don't have to keep on falling for the banana in the tailpipe all the time, especially if we know about it. But the first step is you can say, no, we're going to figure out ways to save. We're going to figure out ways to do this. When humans put their minds to things, you'd be very, very surprised about what can be accomplished. And if there are people that live in certain areas to where it becomes more difficult, then guess what we can do? There are programs that allow us to pool our resources together where you can help a family that you don't know to purchase a property. You don't have to depend on banking. If these programs are going to take advantage of Black people, then we need to start having, like what Mr. Fuller says, what's a counter racist not? What's counter? What's the counter to it? If you know you're getting attacked in this way, how do you counter it? Our response can't just be we don't counter it, because that's what we say. Or we have a 5-hour internet conversation on why this is so bad. But then nobody wants to pool any money together when Brandon says, hey, Aaron, how can you help me purchase a home? Okay, well, I can give you a gift. Let's figure out some creative ways to do some resources. Okay, Kyle, what do you have? You have a friend? You have a family member? What can we do? There are resources available. And somebody's going to say it's not that easy. It's not supposed to be easy. The government literally created the economic deprivation, and now they're saying that you're a credit risk on the environment that they created. Think about it. They created the circumstances, but now they tell you you're a credit risk in the circumstances that they created. So how do you counter that? It can't just be you don't, because then why are we here? We're just wasting our breath. You have to advocate for your own group. And that's just something that I've had to learn. The people in your household first, you take care of your family. But let me tell you something. This is just the icing. This is just the beginning. More of these programs are going to pop out. I don't think that it's even a coincidence that we're having a housing stabilization. And now they're telling Black people that we got a new program that you can come buy in the hood. Come on, y'all. Come on.
Let me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're good. Go ahead, B.
Is there any circumstance where this may be an opportunity that can leverage a Black family to like actually work out? Like,
absolutely.
Is there like, are the stars? Can the stars align where this is actually a really good program for someone?
Absolutely. So in real estate, I was listening to Will Roundtree last night. He had a good lie, but in real estate, it's a long-term play. So if a Black family can sit down and put together a plan to where they're going to end up keeping this property forever, and somebody's going to keep it, this can work out perfectly. Because of what happens with a lot of these loans is that they give you a grant, but it goes into what's called a second trust, or they put a lien against the property. So which means that if you ever refinance or sell the property, let's say they gave you 20 grand, Brandon, to buy it, but you said, nah, this thing just went up 40 grand in value in 3 years. When you sell it, you got to pay the 20 grand back. And that's one of the ways that Black people don't succeed, is that we were just talking about this today. We don't hold property long enough to see what it does. Even in grandma had the house for 30, 40 years, right? Even if it wasn't worth a lot of money, Brandon, it still had value when she died. The problem is we turn around and sell it. We don't keep the property. So to go specifically back to the Bank of America property, If you get into the property and you have a plan to keep it, keep it, keep it, and you can figure out how other family members after you are gone can support the servicing, which is to pay the mortgage, it can work out perfectly. Which means that if Aaron got one of those loans, and then my son Chris said, my dad passed away in 20 years, I'm just going to take over this mortgage, and you keep it going, it can work out. Most people don't have the foresight to say, I'm going to keep this property no matter what. Because we're so economically deprived, when there's an opportunity to sell it, they'll sell it. Everything has to be a long-term plan. It's got to be long-term. Think about some of the most valuable real estate in the country. People have owned it in the same family for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about like plantations. If somebody says plantation, there are plantations that have been owned by families in the federal government that have never changed hands.
There's actually Airbnbs where you can have the cabin experience. We should have pulled those videos. It's funny. It's crazy.
No, but to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So another question on these loans. Is there a specific year that you need to sign up? Like, do you have to have a 25 or 30-year mortgage? What if somebody wants to do a 15-year mortgage on this, get that paid off a little quicker? Like, what are the terms of the mortgages? Do you know?
That particular program? I'm not sure. But there are 15-year mortgages available. They're 10-year. There's 20 years. Man, listen, there's 5-year loans. A bank will lend you money if you show that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. A bank will lend you money if you have the ability to repay. So there's thousands of products. There's thousands of products out there. You just got to figure out which one. This one could fit and help certain Black families, but the Black families and we as a community have to know that these are not marketed to us because they're supposed to be helpful. They're marketed to us because they're risky. And there's a difference.
Wow.
Thanks for breaking that down.
Yeah, because I was looking at that. I was like, this is sounding familiar, but
But Kai, that doesn't mean that even in like Charlotte, that doesn't mean that and then I know we're getting short on time, but then there's so many other things that people have to think about. And you guys know me, that I'm my group. And so when you're telling people that you're buying in Black neighborhoods, we also know what comes in buying in those Black neighborhoods, which means what are the schools like? What is the food like? Is that where people want to be? So it's not just you getting a loan in that area. What's the infrastructure like in those particular zip codes as well? It can't just be go do this. People have to do their research and find out the zip codes. I guarantee you, when Kai finds out what the zip codes are, Kai's gonna come back and be like, man, do you know? Now, are y'all planning to fix this thing up in like the next 5 or 10 years? Because if not, how can you have a family live there? These are things that people aren't logically saying to themselves because the banks are trying to get you in to fill out an application. But remember, all these large banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they all have poor track records of mistreating Black people. What's a good way to get off that track record? Present products and programs that are attractive.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's so true what you said, because now we're starting to see more articles saying how the price of home is starting to come down. So now this comes in place, so you can have many Black families probably say, okay, this is our time to buy now that the rates are going down. But so I guess it's just really knowing how to play the game so that way you can win, as you said, but how can you pull money together?
It is a game. It is a game. And when you know that when you can pool your own money together, and I've we've done loans for thousands of borrowers, and I can tell you the loans that perform, and this is historical data, if Brandon and his wife decide to pull together 15 or 5 or 10% to buy a property, they are much more they got more skin in the game, and they are more likely to make that mortgage payment than somebody that walked in a house to pay zero.
Right.
It's just statistically, that's what it is. And we can't argue with that, because when you have skin in the game, you care. And some people just don't care. And that's how these banks are risking you. So get a little skin in the game. And if you can't right now, talk to a local lender, figure out how, and let's get this thing moving. But we ain't got to keep on falling for the banana in the tailpipe, man.
Now, your typical mortgage, the down payment, is it supposed to be 10% or higher? 15? How much percent should you be thinking of for your down payment?
You can get into a property with 3.5% down, 5% down, or 10% down. And so there's a lot of programs that are available, particularly for high net worth individuals like yourself, Brandon.
Hey man, I'm broke, man. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm trying to figure out how much for one rib, man. I'm broke.
But there's programs available. So the easiest way to do it is, I like round numbers. So if you take $100,000 house and you need a 3.5% down payment, that's $3,500. You know, if you need a 5% down payment, that's $5,000, and then you just take the higher sales prices. Somebody's saying, "Well, Aaron, that's not what it is in my town." Well, figure out what you can do. You know, there's always opportunities, and that's what I tell people. If you look around hard enough, you'll always find an opportunity, but you just have to be ready for that opportunity pops on. So you got to have good credit. You have to have your finances in order. You have to be ready for when those things happen. And a lot of times I've missed out on opportunities myself by not being ready. So I'm not explaining something to somebody that I haven't missed opportunities on myself. But the next time that those opportunities came together, I damn sure made that I was ready, because I made those mistakes previously. I'm not going to make them twice.
Gotcha. All right, there you have it. Any other insight? Any other thoughts on this, Kai, before we wrap up for tonight?
No, I think that's it. Aaron covered it. I don't have anything to add. We'll take a look to see what Bank of America's offering since it's in Charlotte.
Be careful. Be careful.
I'll be on there next podcast. Let me tell y'all something.
I got a house. No money down. She's gonna be in the middle of Durham, scared to death.
Wait, Kai, are those gunshots? No, fireworks.
Not this time. Oh my God. Yeah, this is an interesting program. Well, we'll see what happens.
I am very curious about and the thing is, I know we're gonna end, but see, when they start saying zip codes, the first thing in my mind is, okay, who's determining the zip codes? Who's determining the need? And who is going to be in charge of saying this community is in need more than another one, more than another particular zip code? It's very interesting when you start to get to the logistics or infrastructure when people roll stuff out like this. It's super, super interesting. But hey, we'll see. Like I said, you guys can reach out, DM me, whatever, have questions. But let's see what it does.
Thank you for the analysis. All right, I think we're gonna wrap up. Any final words from you, Kai?
I think just for us to be mindful of what we're spending our time doing. Yep. Are we engaged in constructive activity? And that doesn't mean that everything you do, it always has to be serious, but most of our time should be spent doing things that are constructive. What problems are we solving day to day? So I just think that's one takeaway, even for myself, after us having this conversation tonight, is, are there areas in my life that I'm allowing myself to be distracted in because I don't want to put the work in? So it's just knowing that we're constantly evolving, constantly learning, and that we have to be committed to solving our own problems.
Got it. All right. Well, let's stay committed. Let's continue to do the work. We will be back in 2 weeks with more constructive content, helping you figure out how we can move our lives forward to the best of our ability. Until then, be safe, be constructive, and be well. We'll holler at you all later. Peace out.